Hi, I'm Roger Williams, and welcome to the OSU Extension Show. On today's show, we want to talk about chemicals that you might be using in your yard and garden. A lot of people kind of apologize as soon as they say chemicals, because people kind of have the attitude that you're not being a good steward of the land whenever you use chemicals, and so everyone kind of wants to think that everybody else shouldn't use chemicals, but the truth is most of the people use them, and they use them because they have to. You know, there's always a thought about, well, them farmers are just spraying those chemicals out there. That costs them money too, and they wouldn't be spraying it if it wasn't going to be saving them labor, or maybe there's not even any other way to do it. Same thing occurs with homeowners. You know, they don't go out there and spray chemicals in your garden unless you've got a reason to. Same thing with a yard, stuff like that. Each chemical has its own thing that it controls, its own mode of action, whether it be a herbicide or a insecticide or a fungicide. It's all for a certain use, and we need to kind of know what they are. Also, a lot of people are like, I didn't know that you had a chemical that would do that. I sure wished I would have known that. Would have saved me a lot of time. So today we're going to go through some of the uses of some of the major chemicals that people use around the house, try to talk a little bit about the safety of them, what to do and what definitely not to do, because as most of us that have messed with chemicals know, if you use them wrong, you can really mess up. You can have to wait to plant a garden until next year, or you can wait several years if you do the wrong thing with the wrong chemicals. So we're going to talk about a lot of the things that are normally used around the home, in the garden, around the yard, and things like that. Now we're going to start with some of them that a lot of you probably already know fully well, but we want to talk a little bit about everything. So the first one we're going to begin with here is eraser. Now this is Roundup. It's a generic Roundup called eraser. The thing that you want to do whenever you're looking at chemicals and picking out what you have is to be sure and look at the active ingredient, because that's the thing that is going to tell you what the chemical actually is, and then you can research to see what it actually does. Roundup or eraser or glyphosate or any number of things like that, the active ingredient is glyphosate. And you want to look on here, and it'll be the little bitty hard to find writing that'll be a percentage, and then down at the last it'll show what the actual 100% is. But you want to look at that little active ingredient and tell that it's glyphosate, so you know that it's the same thing as what you've been used to calling Roundup. And you want to look at the percentage. Sometimes the ready-to-use stuff means they've already mixed water with it, and it's going to be a whole lot more expensive than just regular concentrate material. So glyphosate, Roundup, whatever you call it now, most of us have had experience with it. It's been around for 30 plus years, so a lot of us that have had experience with it. The big thing is the percentage that's in it. I know at one time they came up with usually it's about 41%. They came up with something that was in the 50s, called it Ultra, and sold it for a lot more money. So this is probably the first one, the ones that most people are familiar with. Now, one thing about Roundup or glyphosate, it takes it a while to be rain fast. So if you spray it on something and it rains within 2 or 3 hours, and I'm talking about a real hard rain that can wash it off, you might have a little bit of trouble where it it can't do the kill that it's supposed to. Now when you've done something like that also, you've really messed up, because you can't go back in a couple of days and spray again. The plants have to be very actively growing for this to work, and if you've sprayed them once and got about a half kill on them, then they're not actively growing. You're not going to be able to spray it again. At the same token, if you're spraying around your garden and a big gust of wind comes up and it blows some of the spray over onto your garden, you can take a water hose and immediately wash those plants off, and wash them off extremely well with the driving force of water, and kind of mitigate the damage that you'll have to your garden plants if you've got some kind of an accident. So Roundup, eraser, glyphosate, there's a whole lot of things that Glyphosate is known by these days, but that's probably the one that is most used by homeowners. Have a lot of people that spray around their trees with it. This has no soil activity whatsoever, so you can spray in a couple of days, plant something right where you sprayed, it'll come up and you don't have any worry about soil residual activity. Now another point that I want to make pretty quickly here is one of the reasons that you go by the actual active ingredient is because chemical companies have gone to labeling stuff that all looks the same. If you sent your wife to the store for some high yield, you would get any number of things, and these are all different. So you definitely want to look at the name of it and the active ingredient. We'll go through these in a little while, but the one that I really want to talk about to begin with is 2,4-D. Now it comes in a lot of different formulations, and it's in a lot of different chemicals that we spray around. 2,4-D is one of those things that homeowners know that 2,4-D will affect their tomato plants, but they don't realize how many chemicals 2,4-D is in. Trimec and just a whole lot of things will have 2,4-D in it. Grazon has 2,4-D in it. Weedmaster has 2,4-D in it. There's just a whole lot of chemicals. A lot of lawn and garden chemicals have 2,4-D in it, and this can be very deadly to your tomato plants. It's pretty rare to look at tomato plants in Cherokee County that don't have just a smidgen of 2,4-D damage all the way up to almost killing them. 2,4-D is a growth enhancer. It causes the plants to grow themselves to death. So they'll be a real goofy looking weird growth and will be on their way to dying. Probably the biggest thing about 2,4-D chemical is that they put it on some of the, like Weed Be Gone in the fertilizer that you put out. Well, that's still 2,4-D, and it can volatilize and move onto garden plants and cause a tremendous amount of damage. Also, 2,4-D is able to be sprayed one day. Two or 3 days later, you get a little rain and you get some humidity, and it can volatilize, move up out of off the leaf of the plant and move somewhere else. So 2,4-D is one of those things that's a good chemical. I hope we don't lose it. In lots of states, it is a restricted use pesticide because there are so many issues with homeowners on it. So homeowners, be sure that you don't mess your own self up by using 2,4-D the wrong way and not being aware of some of the consequences with it. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back to talk about some of these other chemicals. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.